Okay, today we're going to be learning, this week we learned Pirkei Avot, Perek Hey, so we're going to be learning one Mishnah from this chapter. So this is the Mishnah which discusses love, which is dependent on something. So the Mishnah says, Kol ahava she'tluya b'davar, any love that is dependent on something, batel davar batela ahava. So when the thing ceases, the love for it also ceases. If something is not dependent, if the love is not dependent on something, then it lasts forever. Then which kind of love is dependent on something? Zu ahavat Amnon v'Tamar. This is the love of, for example, King David's children Amnon and Tamar. If you want to know a love which is not dependent on something, that's, for example, the love of King David with Yonatan. So let's explain this. First of all, the simple explanation of the Mishnah means, for example, Amnon and Tamar. So Amnon was somebody who was the brother, half-brother of Tamar. They shared a father, King David. By the way, Tamar was her mother was Ma'acha. Ma'acha was somebody who King David met her in battle. In the book of Dvarim, we read the law of Eshet Yefat Torah. The Torah says if you're a soldier and you go out to fight a war, and in that war you see a woman who is beautiful and you cannot restrain yourself, so the Torah allows you to be with her once, and if you still want her, you could bring her to your home. So King David saw this beautiful woman, Ma'acha. He slept with her once, and out of that union Tamar was born. And then afterwards he brought her to his house, like the Torah says, for 30 days, and after 30 days he still wanted to be with her. So then she bore him another child who was Avshalom. And remember, Tamar and Avshalom were exceptionally beautiful. Avshalom was handsome. He afterwards rebelled against King David. But Amnon, who was another brother of Tamar, but from a different mother, he desired Tamar tremendously. He wanted her. And when she didn't want him, he feigned illness. She came to his house and he raped her. And it says that after he raped her, he didn't love her anymore. He didn't want to be with her. And that is an example of love that's dependent on something. He didn't love her, he loved himself. That, by the way, Tamar afterwards was taken by her brother Avshalom to his house for 2 years, and after 2 years Avshalom actually went and he killed Amnon, which was one of the punishments of King David for what he did with Bathsheba. But anyways, so what is a love that is dependent on something? That's the love of Amnon and Tamar. So, by the way, with the examples that I always give, there's always given here is the example of fish love. Imagine a guy comes to a restaurant, tells the waiter, I love fish. So the waiter brings him a fish, and the guy eats it. But is this called love? He doesn't love fish, because what happened to the love, to this kind of love, is this: the waiter went and he killed the fish, he boiled it, he cooked it, he salted it, he peppered it, and the guy comes and he says, I love fish. He doesn't love fish, he loves himself. So that's the idea of love, which is dependent on something. Along these lines, the story is told of Zusha Me'anapoli, the two holy brothers, Zusha Me'anapoli and Elimelech Mlizhensk. One time they were traveling, and it was late at night. They came to a certain town, and in that town there was one light on, the biggest house, the big house of the philanthropist. They went inside, they knocked on the door, and they asked, can we stay here for the night? And this philanthropist told them, the guest house of the local shul, you can go there, no need to come to me. And he slammed the door in their face. So they went on and they saw another house of the local sofer, the local scribe. So they went inside and they knocked on his door and he greeted them graciously. This poor guy, but he greeted them graciously, and they were very happy to stay there. A couple of years later, when they were well known and they weren't in disguise anymore, they were invited as guests, as prominent guests of that community, to come for Shabbos. So when they came there, the person who got the honor of hosting them was that same philanthropist. So the same philanthropist greeted them. He told them, oh, are you staying by me? And he told the coachman, bring their stuff over to me. Anyway, later on, the coachman is in the house, and it's getting late, and this philanthropist sees that they're not coming. So he asks the coachman, where are they? So the coachman says, they're not coming. He says, why? He says, they told me to bring the coach and the horses and the bags, everything's here, but they're staying by the sofer. So he runs over to the local scribe and he asks Reb Zusha and Elimelech, why are you not staying by me? I have the honor. So they said, it's not us you want. Last time when we came here, you didn't want us. What's the difference between this time and last time? The difference is we have our horses, we have the coachman, and we have our luggage. So that's who you want to host. So go and take them. You can host them. So the idea is it's a love that is dependent on something. If they are well-known people, I'll host them in my house, and if not, then I won't. So the same idea is when it comes to our service of God. So Maimonides says, he says, this is brought, it's a word, when the Torah introduces the first Jew, Abraham Avinu, the Torah says, Abraham Avinu, lech lecha me'artzecha. Doesn't tell us about his background, doesn't tell us anything about him. The first thing it says about Abraham Avinu is lech lecha, go out. When the Torah introduces Moses, it's extensive background. When the Torah introduces Noach, it says Noach ish tzaddik. By Abraham, it says nothing. And the answer is, the idea that we're discussing here is because the Torah doesn't want God's love for Abraham, for the first Jew, dependent on something. It's not because Abraham discovered God or because Abraham did a great thing, that's why I love him. No, the Torah says nothing about him, because my love for you is not dependent on anything. Think about that when we're in this coronavirus pandemic and we're all in isolation and we're frustrated. Think about how much God loves you. Yesterday I saw a clip by my previous Rosh Hashiva. His name is Rabbi Uriel Vigler. He unfortunately passed away recently from the coronavirus, but I saw a clip where he says that a student today has to have embedded in their minds the idea of Ein Od Milvado, which means nothing else exists besides for God. And that idea is described in Tanya, Sha'ar Yichud Ve'amunah, extensively. So Maimonides says it's also the same in the reverse method. Ha'oved me'ahava. Somebody who serves God out of love, oisek b'Torah u'mitzvos, where he fulfills Torah and mitzvot, veholech bin sivot ha'chokhmah, and he follows in the path of wisdom. Lo mipnei davar ba'olam. Why do you serve God? Not because of anything in the world. V'lo mipnei yirat hara'ah. Not because you're worried to be punished about anything. V'lo k'dei lirash tovah. Not because of any good that God's going to do for you. The true way of serving God, el oseh ha'emet mipnei shehu emet. You do truth because it's the truth. V'sof ha'tovah lavo b'glalah. So just like God's relationship with us is not dependent on anything, so too our relationship with God is not dependent on anything. And just want to wrap up, it says in the Talmud in Psachim, Le'olam ya'asok adam betorah u'mitzvot af al pi shelo lishma, shemitoch shelo lishma ba lishma. The Talmud says a person should always perform Torah and mitzvot even if it's not for the right reasons, because eventually eventually you'll come to do it for the right reasons. So first of all, if your love for anybody, for a person, is in the beginning at least, it's dependent on something, that love can still grow to be a love that isn't dependent on anything. And the beautiful reason, the inner dimension of mitoch shelo lishma ba lishma means as follows: in the toch, in deep inside a Jew who serves God because he wants something, deep inside is lishma. Deep inside his soul serving God only because of the truth. In other words, a person should, even if the only reason why you serve God is because it's dependent on something, you should still do it. Or the idea of, if it's a love that you have for somebody, that love can grow to be not dependent on anything. When you have people who are soulmates, who are committed to each other, not because of anything, they love each other because this is my spouse, this is the other part of my soul, so it doesn't matter what the conditions are, it doesn't matter what anything happens, my love is not dependent on anything. That is the greatest method of doing it. And even if it's not, doesn't start off that way, mitoch shelo lishma, in the lo lishma is the lishma. In deep inside, the soul yearns and wants and desires to serve God for the right reasons. So that's the end of today's 10-minute power class. We are here every single day doing a 10-minute power class. Please join us.